Okay, well, good afternoon, everybody. It's Matt Webb here from Mentor Group. I hope you're doing well this afternoon. Thank you for joining us on our fourth webinar. Today we're going to be joined by Pete Cohen. I'm going to introduce Pete in a moment. And today we're talking about thriving in the new normal, whatever the new normal is. And we're going to cover that topic as we go through on the call this afternoon. Just so I can make sure you're all engaged and you're all with me this afternoon, I want to put, if you can just go to your chat box and tell me where you are in the world, if you will. Let's see what sort of spread of countries we've got. So we've got in the UK, Reading, Kent, we've got the USA on. Good morning, USA. We've got New Zealand. Wow, it's going to be late in the day there. North London. We've got loads of people from UK and Texas and all over the world. Well, you guys are on fire with the chat this afternoon, so thank you very much for that. So for the next 45 minutes, we're going to talk about thriving in the new normal. As I said, we've done 3 or 4 webinars so far where we talk about the change that we're all facing, moving to a virtual world. So today we're going to continue that theme, and we're delighted to be joined by Pete Cohen. Pete's driving the slides for me at the moment, and then he's going to carry on from there. So if we can just move on to the next slide. So what do we mean by thriving in the new normal, everybody? You know, how do we thrive? Indeed, what does thriving in the new normal mean? What is the new normal? Why do we need to embrace this? You know, can we change what's going on? No, maybe not, but can we do something different with it? You know, we always live by this premise that what does not kill us makes us stronger. So we're going to cover this off, and we're with Pete this afternoon. Now, Pete, if you don't know him, and some of you on this call will know Pete, is a well-renowned global performance coach. Pete's worked with the likes of Ronnie O'Sullivan, business leaders, celebrities, and dare I say it, Arsenal Football Club. He's worked with a number of people. He's written a number of books. He's written, I think, about 19 books, the latest one being Inspirators, which is about speaking to 1,000 to 2,000 leaders across big companies like Wilmot Dixon, Cafe Nero, about what makes for an inspirational leader. So we're going to hear lots about that from Pete this afternoon. Now, I mentioned earlier, we want the level of interactivity to be really high. So you're already using the chat. Please put questions to me in the Q&A box. I'm going to be sitting behind the scenes quite a lot, dealing with those questions as we go through so that we can get the level of interactivity up. Now, before I say anything about this duck that's on Pete's head, I want to do a poll, and I want to get a sense check from the group that we've got on today. We've got, you know, nearly 150 people on, and we really appreciate you taking your time out this afternoon. But let's get a poll from you on how are you? Those of you who know me, and many people on this call do know me, you'll know I ask this first of all. Right now, it's essential. How are we? How are we doing? Are we okay? Let's see, we've got some questions coming in, some answers coming in. I'm going to give you about 30 seconds on this poll. Then I'm going to come back to the duck, so don't worry. I haven't missed that point, not at all this afternoon. So we've got most of you coming in. By the way, I have to say, guys, of all 4 webinars so far, you are the most responsive. So please keep that up. No pressure for the rest of the time. I've got a comment, is the duck freaking me out a little bit? Well, we're going to come to the duck, don't worry, we won't miss that. Let me share with you what you're saying out there. So the biggest overwhelming is we're okay. Now, is it okay to be just okay, or do we want to be something more than that? If our future is unwritten and we have the power to change it, can we make okay excited, great, optimistic? Can we change those words somewhat? I think we can. So I'm going to introduce Pete onto his video now. And Pete, say hello to everybody.
Good afternoon, or good. I know we've got people all over the world. So hello, good evening, good morning. Thank you so much for being here. Yeah, super excited.
Good stuff. So just before we go into anything, we've got a question from Mark Smith. Pete, what do you do when you see Pete? Duck. Thanks for that, Mark. Don't go out too often. Whatever.
Very good. I'm glad we've got a sense of humor in the house.
Absolutely.
I think that's one of the things that we've probably all experienced over the last few weeks. I don't know how many messages you've had from friends who have sent you things on WhatsApp, just funny videos, people with a sense of humor, because I do think that that really does help in challenging times. Look, thank you so much for being here. We've been preparing this for really a good couple of weeks. Thank you to everyone from the mentor group. I've had the great fortune of working with them closely over the last few years, but it really excited me when I saw we had people here from all over the UK, from Tokyo, from New Zealand, from the States, from Europe, because it's amazing, right? The fact that we can connect in this way. And I mean, who would have heard of Zoom a few years ago? Now it seems to be in every sentence that we say. But today is important, and I really want to share with you some tools and techniques. But more importantly, I want to share with you some perspectives that I really believe that are going to help you, because we know human beings do not change when we tell them what to do. Human beings change when their perspective changes. And let's be honest, the coronavirus has made many people start looking at things differently, from their health, their relationships, their work. Many of them have been forced into doing that. And if you agree that I've got a duck on my head, thank you. And I'll explain more to you about why as we go through this presentation. But do you believe, just let me know in the chat box, do you believe that your future is unwritten and you have the power to change? Because if you do believe that, then we're going to have a good time. If you don't believe it, then it's going to make what I'm going to share actually quite difficult. Because I believe those two things, and it looks like everyone else believes those things as well, right? Which is absolutely fantastic. Now, the next thing I want to talk to you about is I believe we've also got 4 other things in common, right? Here they are. Do you want to have a positive impact? Because I do. Do you? I think if we're being honest, we all want to have a positive impact. We are all in the story making business. Your life is a story. My life is a story. Now we've come together. What we do with this time is going to make the next part of our story perhaps better than how it is right now. We all want to grow. We all want to improve. And finally, we all want a legacy. I don't know how many of you have ever read the book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Dr. Stephen Covey. First habit, be proactive. If we could be proactive over the next 40 minutes or so, if you could have an open mind, that would be great. Dr. Stephen Covey talks about the second habit, which is to begin with the end in mind. And what he means by that is the end of your life. And I would imagine that most of us, when we leave this life, we want to leave a mark. We want to leave something behind, because I think that that's what human beings really need to do. What we can be, we must be. And that's a very famous quote from a man called Abraham Maslow, who's a humanistic psychologist, who said, yeah, of course we need food, and of course we need shelter, and of course we need to be parts of communities, but we need to be the very best that we can be. And look, let's just be brutally honest. You and I and all of us right here, we live at a time where there's probably never been a time where there are so many people aware of the same thing. There's probably never been a time where so many people are affected by one thing. And what is going to happen now is going to be very, very interesting as the future unfolds. But look, prior to Corona, mental health issues in organizations is a massive issue. Absolutely huge problem of the amount of days that are lost every single year, the amount of money that is invested to try and solve this issue. From my experience, most organizations really pay lip service to actually helping people improve their mental and physical well-being. I mean, in the past, that's not what people were employed for. But the fact is that more and more people are working harder than ever. There's more stress, there's more frustration. Living in the modern world is very difficult. And what I want to propose to all of us is how we can thrive moving forwards. What can we actually do? And let me just ask you, how many of you right now are looking at the relationships that you have in a different way? Maybe you're starting to appreciate your friends and family. How many people have contacted you that you haven't heard from a while, just asking how you are? They've been thinking about you because they didn't have time to think about you in the past because they were too busy. How many of you are thinking about your health differently? Sometimes we're so into our work that we fail to look after ourselves. And guys, the stats are pretty scary. What do you reckon the percentage is globally of people who have died from the coronavirus who had underlying health conditions? Well, here in the UK, it's about 90%. 90% of people who had underlying health conditions that in most cases, if they'd made different lifestyle choices, they wouldn't have had that underlying health condition. And I hope that there's a legacy. I really hope that from today, there's a legacy, that we go away and we start thinking differently. We decide to move our life forwards in a different direction. So the first thing is about change your thinking. We know that most people don't change unless their perspective changes. And look, here's Marcus Aurelius, still quoted to this day, even though he said this over 2,500 years ago. Your mind will be like its habitual thoughts, for the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. Soak it then in such trains of thought as, for example, where life is possible at all, a right life is possible. I'd love to have been there when he said it. I probably wouldn't have been able to understand him because it would have been in Latin. But the reality is our thoughts affect everything. And you might be wondering why there is a picture of pickles here. Well, the reason for that is there's something else that you and I have got in common. We've all been pickled, right? What I mean by that is we've grown up, we've all got insecurities, we've all got imperfections, we've all got issues. It's part of being a human being. And there's a certain amount that you can do, and there's a certain amount that you can't do. The situation that we find ourselves in with the coronavirus is a very pickled situation. And we have to ultimately ask ourselves, what can we do about it? But when it comes to doing anything about anything, most of us don't want to do anything because we're always fighting against ourselves. If you don't believe me, when you go to bed tonight, if you share a bed with someone, just get into your partner's side of the bed before they come into the room and see what happens. You'll see immediately when your partner comes in, like, what are you doing? That's my side of the bed. And probably you're one of the 99.9% of people who takes time to go to sleep. You know, that person that literally when they lie down, they go to sleep. I bet you wish you were able to do that. Chances are you wouldn't sleep very well because there's a part of your brain that's going, this isn't me. I don't normally do this. This is not how we do things. We resist change. We want to hold on to what we know. But if we hold on to what we know, we're not going to embrace the future. And real successful people, when they hit a crisis, they behave in ways they don't normally behave. Now, we thought twice about putting this image on the screen. And I wanted it to be here because I really wanted to make a point. I used to live on a houseboat, which was 1/4 of a mile away from here. And when this happened, this is the Grenville Tower in West London. When it happened, I could smell it. I know I have a very big nose, but I think most people could have smelt it, right? If they were near. And then I literally heard it. Then I went outside and I saw this happening. And the reason I show you this is, when do you think we see the best sides of people? When do you think that we see people behave in ways they don't normally behave? Well, it's pretty obvious, a crisis. I knew people that lived here and they didn't even talk to the person next door. But when this happened, people were giving everything they didn't even have, their clothes, their money. We see people behave in ways they wouldn't normally behave when really bad things happen. But unfortunately, what happens to most of us is once we get comfortable again, we go back to what it is that we know. Okay? And that's not going to work moving forwards. I'm asking every single one of you to find that inner strength that you have to move forwards. Why? Because you are a genius. What do you mean? Well, who do you think of in the chat box? Just tell me, who do you think of as a genius? Apart from me, obviously. Who do you think of? Is it Albert Einstein? Is it Mozart? Is it Cristiano Ronaldo? Who is it that you think of as a genius? But if you really, 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 really want to understand what that word means, go and look at the etymology, the root of this word, because mental health revolves around how we talk to ourselves. Changing our thoughts revolves around changing the way that we think, because if we don't change the way that we think, we will be a victim of that duck on our head. The word genius, in its origin, came from Rome, from Latin. It means the inner voice inside you that guides you forwards, right? We all have that voice, the voice that's getting you to watch this right now, as opposed to being distracted and stopping in a minute and thinking, I'm in the 3 second society, so I can't concentrate for 3 seconds because there's another voice inside me. Dr. Stephen Peters, who's written The Chimp Paradox, he thinks of it as a chimp, the monkey mind, you know, that's literally running around in your head. And for me, it's a duck that's quacking away. You have a genius inside you and you have a duck inside you. Or whatever it is, you've got these two voices And they're either going to move, one's going to move you forwards into growth and one's going to keep you back in safety. When we really look at changing our thoughts, and this is so important, it's not difficult, but it's not easy. And I believe there'll be more and more organizations that really want to encourage people to communicate them with themselves in more kind, loving, productive ways. Because if we don't, we will always be a victim of what we think. And the real key to changing our thoughts is learning how to think greater than we feel. So let's just take a couple of moments to reflect on what I've just shared with you. Can you hear me, Matt?
Time, Pete, to share all the chat that's coming on in the session this afternoon. It's incredible. Some of the key themes that are coming out around connection, communication, you know, making sure that people are all right now. That's coming through very, very strongly from you as well. We've got some really good examples of geniuses: Bill Gates, Jürgen Klopp, Einstein, Stephen Hawkins. Your name didn't come up, actually, Pete, I'm afraid to say. And a couple of people said, I'm a genius. Well, you are, you know, there's genius in us all. So I'd love to share all of the chat. There's some great stuff coming through. The key things, communication, connection, looking after each other are coming through.
Yeah, you know, we spend so much of our time rushing that most of us aren't even aware of what we're thinking and how that's affecting us. Right now, there's so many people living in fear. But moving forward, and maybe even today, we could start to change that. People have been talking about this for thousands of years. And I believe, like I said, organizations moving forwards are going to start helping people in ways that really bring forwards the best of people. So let's talk about hope. This is the next thing. I don't know. This to me was always a bit of a woolly word until someone told me, they said, are you aware of the science of hope? And I went, what? There is a science of hope. He said, yeah, there's a science. People study it. And he said, where there's hope, there's possibility. Because what do you think hope really is? Because the science really about it is where you believe your future is better than where you are. Because if you don't believe that, what do you think we have? Hopeless. Now, a lot of what I'm sharing with you is abstract, right? In terms of, Pete, give me a technique. Give me something I can actually do. And I will give you one thing to do at the end. Just one thing. But everything else I'm explaining to you is so important that if we can help people be hopeful so that they believe that the future is better, despite the fact that organizations like British Airways, it looks like they're going to be laying off 12,000 people, the fact that the situation that we're in is probably going to get a lot worse before it actually gets better. But what we need is inspired people who have hope. You know, it was Einstein that said, reality doesn't exist in the outside world. It exists in here, right? We create our own reality and we can almost decide what we want the future to look like. And one of the people who I just love reading about this guy, I don't know whether you've ever come across Admiral James Stockdale. He has a paradox named after him. This was a guy who was a prisoner of war in a Japanese prisoner of war. And he was the most recognized officer, the highest ranking officer. And the Japanese wanted to use him as a symbol of, look, we're looking after them. And he wouldn't have that. He'd punch himself in the face. He'd get himself locked up in solitary confinement. And he said that he saw a lot of people around him die because they gave up, because they had not false hope, but they would be saying things like, oh, we'll get out by Christmas, we'll get out by Easter. And when that didn't happen, they felt so let down. They felt so disappointed that they died of a broken heart, where he was beyond resilient. And the work that we do, and this is what Mentor is all about, giving people the mindset, the tool set, the skill set around making the best people they can be in the work that they do, in the work that I do. It's the same thing. It's about helping people go beyond just being resilient, because resilient is just where you fight something, but it can beat you. But when you go beyond that, which is like you're like anti-fragile, nothing breaks you. You want difficulties to happen because you know that you'll get stronger because of it. And I encourage you to go and read about Stockdale. It's absolutely fascinating. And then, of course, we have Bill Gates. Bill Gates, who had the vision to know that this was going to happen, but he probably got that from speaking to lots of people. But his vision now, what was his vision back then? All those years ago, his vision was everyone had his computer, everyone was using the operating system that he had created. But what is his vision now? His vision now is he doesn't want people to die of diarrhea because he knows it's happening unnecessarily. He is driven by a vision. And when you are hopeful, it's because you have a vision of the future. And the reason I show you this, and I don't show many people this picture. I know you're probably thinking, who's that beautiful girl next to you? How did that happen? Well, this is my wife. And 9 years ago, my wife was given 18 months to live. 18 months, 9 years ago. And I was brought up very well by my parents, and I can see my mum and dad well, my mum actually isn't in those pictures, but my dad is. And they brought me up really well. My dad always said, son, it is not what you know, it is who you know. So guess what? I know a lot of people, and maybe after today, I'll know a whole load more from us that we connect with each other. Because we want to have communication with you. What we're sharing with you today, we want to talk to you. If you want to help your people to improve themselves, mentally, physically, emotionally, we want to talk to you. Now, the reason I show you this picture was because she was given 18 months to live. And my mum brought me up to believe there's an answer to everything. And I had a coach at the time when my wife was diagnosed, massive epileptic fit in the house, rushed to hospital, brain tumor. It was only through the collaboration of other people who came together and helped us, but also my coach who said, this is what he said. He said, find people that are still alive in the world and find out why. Why are they still here? And I did find people, and they were treated by a doctor, top right, just to the left. There's a Dr. Basinski, who we went to go and see. But it was the next thing he said. He said, what is she going to do when she gets better? And I said, but she's only been given 18 months. And this is what he said. So what? People defy the odds all of the time. They do. You defied the odds in being born. We could all defy the odds. Yes or yes. Defy the odds of no matter what is going on with the coronavirus, we could defy the odds. But we have to be hopeful. We have to change the way that we think, because you have a brain, and your brain is able to generate the movie theater in your mind to be able to see and picture, because everything that we see in the world, it sounds very cliche, has been invented twice. Once in your head as an idea, and then once in reality. So what are the ideas that we could come up with? I'm working with 100 fitness business owners, 100 plus fitness business owners at the moment. And so many of these business owners, their livelihood is gone. But many of them have been forced into a position where they're now having to move their business online. And it's really interesting to see the ones who do and the ones that don't. The ones that do, they've got hope, they've got vision. We can all have hope and vision, but ultimately it's up to us. How hopeful are you based on what I've just said? Let's take a few moments to reflect.
I've got a couple of questions coming in, which I'd like to throw your way, if you don't mind.
Yeah, of course.
So first one is around sharing. So in the chat, we've had a point around, you asked that question, how are you? Sometimes it can open up Pandora's box. I know that you talk about the fact that certainly men don't like to share that. But is it really important that they do? Give us your sense on that.
So, this is starting to change as more mental health has started to be talked about a lot more. I've been asked a quote recently on mental first aiders. And when I heard about that, I thought, what, is someone going, help, help? And someone comes like, first aid, but it's much more than that. It's people becoming more aware of how they're feeling. And men don't particularly like talking about their feelings because they don't want, especially in the workplace. I mean, people don't want to show any weakness because people feel that it will be used against them. But with the great athletes and the great performers I've worked with, if you don't talk about that stuff, it surfaces. But I think that is breaking down, and more people are starting to wake up. I mean, look, 800,000 people every year take their own life, and a large percentage of that is male. We're all vulnerable. Nobody's perfect. We're all pickled. But if we can wake up to the fact that we do have insecurities and imperfections, then we pave the way for something else, something better.
Yeah, actually, someone's saying that the present is perfect.
That's why it's called the present, right?
Present. And then the second question before we move on is, do we think managers can cause depression to their workers?
Well, the thing about managers is many managers and leaders have found themselves in positions where they've never really been trained, right? Many leaders, excuse me, find themselves becoming leaders and they're often not even getting support, but they don't really know how to inspire. But look, the fact is, there is an answer to everything. We can all learn, we can all get better. And what I want to talk to you about now is about co-laboring. And this is one of the things I think we're going to see as the biggest change. I was talking to a futurist recently. I didn't even know what a futurist was, but someone said, you want to speak to this guy? I said, what does he do? Is he at home with a crystal ball? How does he know the future? I said to him, I know the future. It's opportunities mixed with difficulties. But no, he was talking about how the world we predicted for like 10 years' time is going to be sped up. Less people traveling, more people using things like this, and more people collaborating, which I love. I love because the word collaboration really comes from co-laboring. How can I help you? And that's another thing, Matt, when we talk about how men or just people don't like admitting that they've got issues. People don't like asking for help. But I can promise you, this is one of the biggest changes that you're going to see, and we can be the change. Look, Martin Luther King said many things, right? In fact, when he was on Capitol Hill and he got about to get up, he didn't know what to say. So he turned to his wife and said, what should I say? She collaborated and said, tell them that you have a dream. And he got up and said, I have a dream. And we all heard that. But one of the most famous things, and this is what he said, think about this, please meditate on it, ponder it. He said, the most important question that we should be asking is, what can we do for others? What can I do for you? How can I help you? And that is going on in the world right now because there's a crisis. But what about when we come through this? How many of us will still be asking the question? Because when do we see the best in people? When do we see the best in organizations? I believe it's when they're looking to help others. And look, this is Iron Man. This is the other thing, right? We all love stories. Please, in the chat box, tell me, what's your favorite film? Is it Shawshank Redemption? Is it The Matrix? Is it Alice in Wonderland? Is it Mary Poppins? Is it Harry Potter? Is it Lord of the Rings? Look, all of these films have a very similar theme. Someone is called to an adventure. I'm calling you to an adventure because this is an adventure that you're going on. And probably you don't want to go. You probably want to stay where you are. But if you stay where you are, nothing is going to change. And this is why I have a lot of respect for Mentor Group, realizing we want to offer solutions to our people all around the world. We want to help people get better because people do want to get better. And the reason I show this picture is the films that really now are very popular is where superheroes come together. Again, these are just abstract ideas, but there are still things that you can do. The Avengers is, Iron Man comes together with Spider-Man, and Spider-Man with the Hulk. And all of a sudden, when people come together, the word hero means protector. That's what a hero is. He's not a killer of bad people. We are protectors. Who do we need to protect? Who can we help? Who can we help close the gap between where they are and where they want to be? This is what I'm obsessed about. I am obsessed with helping people go from where they are to where they want to be. And let's just go back a slide here. If you had a superpower, what would it be? Unrelenting optimism like me? Would you be fearless? Constant hope? Unwavering positivity? Invisibility? The ability to fly? For me, it's all about my superpower is helping people realize there is a gap between where they are and where they want to be with their health, their relationships, and their work. And you know why there is so much frustration and worry and doubt and depression in the world? Because people are not closing the gap. And organizations are starting to realize this. I mean, they're in crisis, many of them, but I believe a lot of them will come out of this and realize that they need to help their people grow, get better. It's interesting to see that the highest number is unwavering positivity. Well, you better change the way that you think if you want that, because our minds are not wired up for that. Our minds are much more wired up to avoid danger. We are programmed to survive. We're not programmed to thrive. We are programmed to now settle, believe it or not, and settling is killing people. We need to go create. And lastly, I want to make a point on the collaborating piece. I've written many books, and one of them I would definitely recommend. The others I wouldn't, because I don't agree with everything I wrote. But there's a book that was written in 1937, Think and Grow Rich, by Napoleon Hill. Napoleon Hill interviewed 500 people who have changed the modern world, from Alexander Graham Bell to Thomas Edison to Henry Ford. And there's one thing that he said, which I absolutely, two things. One is that successful people have a burning desire, something they must do, something they must go and create, because people will follow people who want to go out and do something. But this is the second point. He said the era of the go-getter has gone. The era of the go-getter has gone. It's the era of the go-giver. How can I help? How can I serve? And now I'm asking you that question. The mentor group are asking you that question. How can we help you and how can we serve? So what's your biggest takeaway from co-laboring? Think about who you could collaborate with, because that will be the future. More and more organizations coming together and helping each other. Matt?
It's a big mixture of different films. It's quite interesting. We've got lots of commentary around partnerships, community, around the collaboration piece. Pete, certainly in the field that we work in sales, the collaboration piece now is more important than it's ever been. Because if you think about it, the complexity of what we sell and the complexity of the buyers who buy, the numbers are both going up. So if I'm looking after an account, I can't do everything. So to collaborate together, to co-labor, to get to a good outcome is really, really important. So lots of chat, Pete, around community, local networks. I live in a rural area, and the sense of community, because of where we are right now,
Yeah,
been fantastic. So my hope is that, as we move forward through the global pandemic, we keep some of that, we retain some of that, because it would be a shame if it went away.
Well, a recent report that was published, it was reported on Sky, basically saying only 9% of people want things to go back to the way they were. And before we know it, the world is going to start speeding up again. And maybe you want that, but I definitely want people to move through the world in a better way, where they give them the better of themselves. And I really do believe that this is a turning point. Right now, this is a turning point, because I don't know if you know what this word means. I know we've got someone from Tokyo here. I'm not sure if that person is Japanese. If they are, please tell us what that means, because I don't know. No, I do know what it means. It's the symbol for crisis. And the symbol has two meanings. One means opportunity and one means danger. So right now there is danger and there's opportunity, right? But the word crisis from the Western perspective means a turning point. What will this turning point be? Will the turning point be, for some of us, especially for those of us that want to take the lead in our life, that we don't just want to take the lead in our work? I've been amazed, when I wrote this book, which you can all get for free if you want a copy of it. It was years of work. I couldn't believe the amount of leaders that were just leading in work. Their health was terrible. The most inspiring leaders were the ones who were healthy and recognized that they needed energy. And they would put that as a priority, as with their relationships. And they had more of a balance, because there's no such thing as work-life balance. It's always balancing. And if we really look at what people want, the turning point, organizations, if you really understand people, which I've spent the last 25, 30 years of my life working with people from all walks of life. You know what people want in your business? They want to get better at things. They really want to get better. They want to master things. That's why people like playing games. They just want to get better. They want autonomy. They want to be themselves. And more importantly, they want purpose. They want to feel that what they're doing matters. And they need you more than ever to be someone who facilitates that as much as possible. Look, as we start to wrap this up and I share a couple of things with you, you probably have no idea what this is, what that picture is or what that word means. But please go and Google it if you can remember how to spell it. It's called syntropy. And a man who won the Nobel Prize twice, a Hungarian man, his theory, syntropy, which basically means that every living cell lives for two reasons. Actually, for one reason, just to grow. Every living cell. But the difference between you and me and an acorn relies on nature for it to have any chance of growing. A kitten that wants to be a cat relies on instinct. Human beings, what separates us from every other animal in the animal kingdom is choice. And we can either move forwards into growth or we can move back into safety. We're either going to grow or we're going to die. We are here to grow. We're here to evolve. We are here to get better. If you don't believe me, just do the opposite and see what happens. Now, I want to leave you, when we'll take questions, and I want to share a couple of other things, but I want to give you a technique. Because we know, and if I give you one thing to do, you might go away and do it. And it's simple. There is something called the law of diminishing intent, right? So the law of diminishing intent is, look, have you ever had an idea, like I'm going to go and talk to that person, but I'm just going to do this first. Have you ever had the idea of, I'm just going to go for a walk, darling. Oh, hang on, I'll just check this email. What was I going to do? I'm just going to go start cooking, start doing something. The phone rings. Your attention has gone. The most valuable thing that we own is our attention. Where you place your attention, if you place your attention on what I'm sharing with you, your life will change if you really, really want to embrace what I'm sharing with you, because this is what I've been sharing with so many people, and it's changed everything. Because we change when our perspective changes, and we change where we have a vision, we have hope, we start working with other people, and we have a necessity to act. A necessity to act is built upon a part of our brain called the prefrontal cortex. So if I said, guys, I really want your attention, everyone stop what you're doing. You ready? In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so tomorrow morning, when your alarm goes off, I want you to say to yourself, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and get out of bed. How easy is that to do? How difficult is that to do? There's a part of you that wants to stay where you are. I dare you to start thinking about where you can use this technique. And the reason we count down is there's a part of our brain that thinks 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, we're going. Like Thunderbirds, for those of you that remember that TV program. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Thunderbirds are go. The hardest thing to do is just start. How many people around the world right now do you think, I don't feel like it? And because they don't feel like it, they won't do anything. And that's a huge thing based on our thoughts. I don't feel like it, which produces a feeling in your body that goes in collaboration with that thought. And then you don't do anything because you don't have the feeling. We all need to move forwards into growth. And the best way to do that is to trick our brain. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 basically gets the prefrontal cortex of our brain to act, to move forwards, to think there's something we've got to do. So I dare you, on the back of this, apart from waking up tomorrow morning, you're going to hear my voice in your head going 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, let's go. Or after this, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, pick up the phone and go and tell someone you love them. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, put on your shoes and go for a walk. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, think about who you can help. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, move away from the alcohol. You can use it to move forwards to things. You can use it to move away from things. It's such a simple thing to do. It's such a simple thing not to do. I would love to know what happens as a consequence of that. And as we bring this all together and we reflect a little bit, Matt, feel free to chip in here. I want to share with you what I really believe that we could all actually go away and do, apart from 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Do you know, there's a thing in the chat which you would have all seen, and it says a great leadership team takes care of their staff and well-being by leading by example. I think it's broader than that. I think a great human being does the same to those around you, you know, but just by applying some of these principles, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, I'm going to call that person I meant to call. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, I'm going to do this now. Very, very simple things, and it might sound basic, but it really works. So, and there's loads of chats coming in about self-compassion, compassion to others. All these things are really important.
Yeah, and from what I've observed, Matt, from working in industry for years, and believe you me, as I think most of you know, you go and look on LinkedIn, look how many recommendations, testimonials I have from companies and talks I've given all over the world. I see very, very few companies going above and beyond just paying lip service to developing their people. And none of this is complicated. It's going back to the Marcus Aurelius quote, helping people to create the habits so they can habitually move forwards in a better way. And when you see organizations do this, coaching people and supporting people, that's where the magic is. That's where loyalty is, because no one wants to suffer. No one wants to feel that they're not good enough. I just want to say I really appreciate everyone being here today. And you can see on here, I mean, who would have thought that we'd be looking at a quote of Dolly Parton, sorry. If your actions create a legacy, that inspire others to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more, then you are an excellent leader. Matt, my goal has always been to inspire people to live life not by chance, but by design. You know, that's how a great life is formed. And if we think we can do all of that on our own, we're foolish. We're absolutely foolish. And these are the areas that we love to work with. And this is what one of the things I'm doing in collaboration with the mentor group. If any of you are interested in any of these areas, yourself personally, or helping the people in your organization develop, these are the areas that we can help you with. And it doesn't have to be all of these. Look, mindfulness has been around for 2,500 years. It works, but people need to learn how to do it in a way that they get results from it. People need to learn how to take better care of themselves with their wellness and willpower. I mean, check this out. Willpower outpredicts IQ. You can be the most intelligent person on earth, but if you don't have willpower, which is the science of self-control, you can teach willpower. Confidence is all about learning to trust yourself. And this is the thing that we love to do with people, to not just educate, but to get them to do. It's all very well knowing something. We don't want librarians of the mind. We want warriors of living in this modern world. And these are the things we should be learning. Because if we don't, think about all of the upgrading. When was the last, I can't wait to get my phone upgraded because I've had it for nearly 3 years and it's not working as well as the newer versions of the phones are. We upgrade technology, but do we really upgrade ourselves? Many businesses are going to have to upgrade and start operating in a new way. But what about upgrading ourselves? And this is what this whole thing has been about. You know, the 4 areas: changing the way you think, thriving, having something to hold on to, something that's what thriving is. It comes from, the word is Scandinavian. It means something to hold on to. We need to hold on to a better future. We need to be hopeful. We need to come together, and we need this to be a turning point. And I could talk about this stuff all day. It's amazing to see all the people here who have stayed from the beginning to the end. I can't thank you enough. I can't thank Mentor Group enough as well, because we've put time and effort into putting this together for you. And we want to have conversations. You know, I know, Matt, we've already got a few conversations coming up over the next few days with people, but please, what would you like to say? What comments, what questions?
Yeah, and to add to that, if you can, and if you feel like you want to, one thing that we would also like to know is what are you going to do from this 45 minutes of time you've invested? If you reply to us in just all panelists, it stays confidential, but we'd love to hear one thing that you're going to take away from today that is going to make you thrive in the new normal. Just stick it in the chat box for us to have a look at as we go through. We will send you the recording out after we finish this. If you go back one, Pete, for me, please. We will do that. There we go. Stay in contact with us. If you've got any questions, if you want to phone us, get in touch. You know, as we know now, I remember an advert years ago. It's good to talk. Do you remember that? Well, right now it really is good to talk. Yeah, British Telecom. It really is now good to talk. So stay in touch with us. We'll share the slides. We'll share the recording with you so you can look at it again, take some of the concepts on. We've got some great things coming in. I'm not going to read them out because they're just coming into us. But take action. Do something differently moving forward. Think bigger and thrive. And from Pete and I this afternoon, we appreciate you investing 45 minutes of your time with us. It's been
I really do. I wanted to give you the best, of what I have to offer. Please feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn, or however you want to connect with me. But on here right now, you've got the opportunity to connect. Like Matt said, we'll send you the recording, and we will also talk to you if you want to talk about any of this stuff, because this stuff matters. Your life matters. And like I said right at the beginning, look, a great life, it doesn't happen by chance. It happens by design. None of this is complicated, but you can be better. I'm 50 in a few weeks, 2 weeks, less than 2 weeks, a week on Wednesday. And I want to be the fittest, healthiest 50-year-old I could ever be. What about you? What do you want? Let's go out there and make it work, whether it's a better you or a better business or a better whatever. Let's do it. Thank you so much for the opportunity, Matt, and the whole team at Mentor. I've thoroughly enjoyed this this time that we've had together.
Me too. And thank you, Pete. We really appreciate you taking the time and joining us with this. For everybody who's still on, please stay safe, look after each other. We will be doing more of these webinars. We'll send them out via our LinkedIn. So follow us on there if you will. And yeah, thanks again. We look forward to seeing you again very, very soon.